Hello everyone. So I'm going to be doing challenge activity 10.9.2, which is constructor overloading. So the thing that I wanted you to notice, I tried this before and I didn't do a very good job, is that first of all, what is a class and what is it doing and how can we understand it? So a class is like a template that from which you can create what are called objects. An object is just like, okay, so a class defines a data structure. So let's say you have this data structure, you want to have what's a good data structure, a contact in your contact list on your phone, right? That each contact in your phone might have the int for the phone number. I guess maybe this has to be a long. I don't know. Long for the phone number. It has to have the ability to retrieve the number from inside of it. So you have like a get phone number method. You have a set phone number method, so you can set the phone number, and then you will have other things like you'll have like string first name, string last name. Oh, and then of course for phone numbers you have like the work phone number, you have the mobile phone number. And people don't really have these anymore, but you have and just so you know, this is not like real code. I'm just like demonstrating for you. So I shouldn't even put semicolons. Just make it really clear. This is not code. I'm just explaining something. And then you'd have your landline phone number, which nobody has anymore. Right, but like if you can imagine that each contact in your phone has to contain all of this data. Well, the first way that you could do it is you could say say you have a program, you could say int phone, mobile phone number or long mobile phone number, depends on, I don't know which one you'd actually need to use. 10 digits. I think technically 10 digits of int would be long enough, but if you have a long distance number, you'd need a long because they'd have more than 10 digits. Anyway, so you could just define, okay, here's the phone number, here's the first name, here's the last name, and here's the work number, string their home address, string their work address. You know what I'm saying? You could have like individual variables for all of these different things that would go in your contacts. And that would work totally fine. And there's other programming languages where you do it exactly like this. But in Java, we have this construct called a class. And with a class, we can have a class called class contact list entry. I'm just doing this off the cuff. And then this list can contain all of these, this class can contain all of this data structure inside of one class. So to store all of this, all you have to do is make an object that is a contact list entry object. And the way you do that is somewhere else in your code. Again, this is not proper code. Like your class should look more like this. What's around this, not like this. But say you somewhere else in your code you'd say contact list entry, and then you name it like my entry or whatever. This is whatever you want to call it. So whatever you want to call it equals new contact list entry. And this will take this class, which is like a definition of a type, or you can think about it as a template to create objects. Objects are just what the class makes. Like if you thought about an int, or a string, string is the type, but when you create string my name equals Ethan, you have an object which contains the string Ethan, which is a creation of the string class. Is that terminology getting confusing? Anyway, all you need to know is that once you create a class like this, you're creating a type. So just like we can do int number of chickens is equal to 5, we can create a contact list entry, which is just a new type, just like int, and we can call it whatever we want, just like we can with our int, and then we can set it to be a value, and in this case we create it using what's called a constructor. Okay, is that a little too fast? Basically, the way that you can think of a class is it's like a super array. Like an array, int class grades. I think this is an example that they use. Well, let's not use the word class. Student grades equals new int 50. This creates an array of 50 integers, and then in each one you would store the grades for the students. Right? A class is like an array, but instead of being 50 of one type of just integers, this is like 6 of, you can have a long, a string, a long, a string, and then you can even have functions or methods. Or a method and a function are exactly the same thing. They're just different words for the same thing. You can have functions inside of it that are also here, like method. You can have get address, and you can have set first name, and you can have get mobile number, right? And these access this data and either set them or get them, and then you can have methods that do different things like print mobile number, which is different from getting the mobile number because it actually prints it with system.out.print, whereas get would just return it. Okay? Hope this isn't too confusing. Anyway, the point is, the class is like a data type. It's like a super array that can store not just integers or strings, or not just one type, but many different types, all inside of one new type that you create. That's like a super type that contains them all, right? So anyway, as I said before, when you have in your program, here's an example. Like, we have the class phone plan, and it's in the file phoneplan.java. Whenever you have a new class, the standard Java thing to do is to put each class in their own .java file. Okay? So that's why in the examples, they'll either split it up like this and say, this is actually in this file, and this is actually in this file, or they'll have little clicky things up here where you can click between the files. Each class goes in its own file. So down here we can see that we're creating an object. This is the correct terminology. We're creating an object of the type of the phone. We're creating an object of the phone plan class, which is just like a type. So first we declare a phone plan variable called user1plan, and then we create, using that template, we create a default version of it using the constructor, which we do using new and then the name of the class. So now we've gotten that out of the way, the other thing about classes is that, well, here's just something about methods. We can actually do what's called method overloading. So notice that we have a method here, public phone plan, and this doesn't have a type because it's a constructor. Constructors don't have types, because what they return is always an object of this class, so it doesn't need a type. So if we created another public phone plan, and we just like this, and we put some code here. This would not compile because there's two phone plans that are exactly the same, right? And it makes sense. Like, if you're down here and you call phone plan, which one do you mean? Do you mean this one or this one? I don't know. Neither does the compiler, so it'll fail. But if you do phone plan int input minutes or starting minutes and int starting messages, then this, and then you have still have some code here. This actually will compile because even though these have the same name, this one takes different arguments, takes different input than this one does. So the compiler is smart enough to tell, okay, these have the same name, but this one has different stuff inside of it. So when you use them, you're going to use them completely differently. This one notice has nothing inside of it, so it calls this one. And this one has two integers inside of it, so it calls this one. Okay, you with me so far? So all this wants us to do is create a new constructor that uses these variables to set our free minutes and free messages inside of our object. So the way to do that is first we already have the prototype. Never mind. We already have the name, like the beginning of our method right here. And it just says, okay, so here it's a constructor because it has no type and it's the name of the class. And it's a different constructor from this one because it takes two integers, which is what the program wants. And we're going to set these integers to free minutes and free messages. Or maybe I should put this as input. I don't really know how phone plans work in that much detail. So we're getting an input minutes, and we're going to set that. We're going to set free minutes to equal input minutes. And we're going to set free messages to equal input messages. And you can see that this is very similar to this one, except the only difference is when you call phone plan with no arguments, it creates an object and sets free minutes and free messages to 0. When you call phone plan with two arguments, which are both integers, then it sets free minutes to the first argument, input minutes, and it sets free messages to the second argument. Alright? So, anyway, that was much to do about nothing. I don't know if I was doing a very good job, but I was trying to explain what classes are, because to be able to explain what a constructor is, you kind of have to know what a class is. So let's just see if this works. I mean, it's not very complicated what the actual code is, so I think it should be fine. It's taking a long time, so it probably worked. Yep. So anyway, these methods right here, what they do is they take the type phone plan. Whatever we create a class, we're creating a type. And our type is called phone plan. And our type, phone plan, contains phone plan, has free messages, has free minutes, has the print function, and then the ways that you create a phone plan object or a variable, like you give it a value, is by using the constructors, which started with just this phone plan with nothing. And then we have this other phone plan we just created, which takes two variables and sets those to free minutes and free messages to those. Okay, so I don't think I explained this very well, but I tried my best. So yeah, and if you have any questions, just leave them below. So thanks.